There are certain things in this world you just assume will never happen. The sun won't rise in the west, water won't flow uphill, and Porsche, the legendary German automaker that's been the poster child for precision engineering since 1931, will always remain German. Well, about that last one. You see, Porsche's profits just collapsed. German factories are going dark, and the unthinkable question is suddenly on the table. Could China, the country that supplies Porsche's batteries, one day own the company itself? Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like the plot of a particularly pessimistic Tom Clancy novel, but stick with me, because what's happening right now in Stuttgart isn't just about one luxury car maker having a bad quarter. It's about the entire foundation of European industrial power cracking beneath the weight of an energy transition that nobody, and I mean nobody, was actually prepared for. Let's start with the gut punch that woke everyone up. Porsche just reported a sharp drop in profit margins. We're talking about a brand where people willingly wait years and pay over sticker price for the privilege of owning a car. These aren't normal market conditions for Porsche. This is a company where demand usually exceeds supply by default. So, what went wrong? Well, first, there's the Taycan. Porsche's first all-electric sports car was supposed to be the company's ticket to the EV future. Instead, it became a very expensive lesson in market timing. Demand was weak. The Macan EV, their electric SUV that was meant to print money like its gasoline-powered predecessor, also struggling. These aren't cheap vehicles we're talking about. We're discussing six-figure electric cars that suddenly can't find enough buyers in a market that's supposedly going electric. Then there's the production cost spiral. Everything costs more now. Everything. Energy, materials, labor, compliance, the whole bill of goods has gone up, but here's the kicker. When you're Porsche, you can't exactly cut corners. Your entire brand promise is uncompromising quality, so you eat the costs and watch your margins evaporate. And if that wasn't enough, there's the VW Cariad debacle. Cariad is Volkswagen Group's software division, the unit that's supposed to provide the digital brains for all VW brands, including Porsche. It's been delayed, repeatedly. This isn't just inconvenient. In modern cars, software isn't an accessory, it's fundamental architecture. It's like trying to build a house while waiting for someone to invent the blueprint. The stock market, that merciless arbiter of corporate reality, took one look at Porsche's profit guidance and hit the sell button hard. But Porsche isn't suffering alone in some isolated bubble of misfortune. They're just the most visible canary in Germany's very expensive coal mine. Germany's industrial sector is in a full-blown crisis, and it rhymes with Ukraine war. When the cheap Russian gas stopped flowing, Germany's energy prices didn't just rise, they spiked like a volleyball player on steroids. German manufacturers now face some of the highest energy costs in Europe. Let me put this in perspective. Germany built its entire industrial miracle on the back of cheap, reliable energy. That was the secret sauce. Now the sauce costs 3 times as much, and suddenly making things in Germany looks less like competitive advantage and more like economic masochism. Factories across the country are reducing output. Layoffs are rippling through the industrial sector like dominoes in slow motion. This isn't just about Porsche or even just about cars. This is Germany's entire manufacturing base gasping for air. The country that once defined precision engineering is now debating how to keep the lights on in its factories. If this sounds dramatic, that's because it is. While Germany stumbles, China is sprinting. Actually, scratch that, it's launching itself into orbit at this point. BYD, NIO, XPeng, these names were barely on Western radar 5 years ago, but today, they've captured 22% of the EU EV market share between 2023 and 2025. That's not a typo. More than 1 in 5 electric vehicles sold in Europe now comes from China. China isn't just the world's largest EV market anymore, it's now the world's top EV exporter. The student has become the master, and the master is now teaching a master class in disruption. And here's what really stings for legacy automakers. Chinese EVs aren't just cheaper, though they absolutely are, they're also smarter with better software, slicker interfaces, over-the-air updates that actually work. While German engineers were perfecting the art of the naturally aspirated flat six, Chinese companies were perfecting the art of the smartphone on wheels. The vehicles are cheaper, the technology is better, and they're landing in European showrooms with the subtlety of a wrecking ball wrapped in a red flag. But here's where this story stops being about market competition and starts being about something far more strategic, and quite frankly, far more dangerous. Because the real issue isn't that Chinese companies make good EVs, the real issue is that everyone, and I mean everyone, depends on China for the fundamental building blocks of those EVs. Let me give you some numbers that should make any European policymaker break out in a cold sweat. Between 80 and 90% of critical battery materials come from China. Not influenced by China or partially sourced from China, we're talking about near total dependency. Graphite, the stuff you need for anodes in lithium-ion batteries, China controls 90% of global production. Lithium processing, the refining that turns rocks into battery-grade material, China handles about 60% of that. And it's not just batteries, it's the entire supply chain of rare earth elements, processing capabilities, and manufacturing capacity. The EU finally waking up to this strategic vulnerability like a college student realizing the exam is tomorrow, passed something called the Critical Raw Materials Act. It's basically a legislative cry for help disguised as policy. The subtext is clear. We are dangerously, catastrophically dependent on a single country for the materials that will power the 21st century economy. This isn't like depending on Middle Eastern oil. At least with oil, you had multiple producers and centuries of established markets. With battery materials, China isn't just the biggest player, it's essentially the only player that matters. Now, the alarm bells are ringing in Berlin, though, being German, they're probably very precisely engineered alarm bells that ring at exactly the right frequency. Parliament is actively debating industrial protection measures. There's genuine concern about foreign acquisitions, and yes, while they're being diplomatic about it, everyone knows they're primarily worried about China. The German government is now considering options that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. State investment in strategic industries, direct intervention in corporate affairs, and industrial protection mechanisms that sound suspiciously like the kind of picking winners that free market Germany used to mock. This is the economic equivalent of a vegan opening a steakhouse. The desperation is palpable. Now, here's where we need to recalibrate our thinking about what a takeover actually looks like in 2025. Forget the Hollywood version where a Chinese conglomerate shows up with a briefcase full of cash and buys Porsche outright. See, that's not how modern economic leverage works. It's far more subtle, far more insidious, and far more difficult to resist. The real takeover happens through supply chain control. It happens when you can't build your EV without Chinese batteries, Chinese graphite, Chinese processing, and Chinese technology. It happens through strategic partnerships that seem innocent at first. Cooperation agreements with companies like CATL or tech sharing deals with NIO, but gradually becoming dependencies you can't escape. It happens through investments routed through intermediaries in Hong Kong or Singapore. Money that technically isn't Chinese, but effectively is. It happens through technology cooperation agreements where you license their software because yours doesn't work, and suddenly the brain of your German sports car is running Chinese code. This is 21st century economic statecraft. Nobody needs to buy Porsche when they can simply control everything Porsche needs to exist. So, what are Porsche's options? Let's run through the menu, keeping in mind that every option ranges from bad to catastrophic. Option 1, cut production to stabilize margins, which translated means make fewer cars, disappoint customers, and hope that scarcity pricing saves you. This works until it doesn't. Option 2, delay EV rollouts. They're already doing this with the Macan and Taycan facelifts. Basically, admit that the electric future isn't working and slow walk your way into irrelevance while praying for a miracle. Option 3, partnership with Chinese tech or battery giants. Sign a deal with CATL for batteries, maybe team up with NIO on software. Solve your immediate problems by handing leverage to the very companies that represent your long-term strategic threat. What could go wrong? Option 4 is to sell non-core assets. Strip the company for parts, raise cash, buy time. This is the corporate equivalent of selling your furniture to pay rent. Option 5, double down on hybrids and internal combustion engines to buy time. Basically bet that the EV transition will be slower than everyone thinks and that you can milk the internal combustion engine for another decade. This is a gamble that you're smarter than the entire market. Notice something? Every single option is a variation of either delay, denial, or dependency. There's no option that says innovate our way out or leapfrog the competition. Those ships have sailed and they sailed east. For decades, Porsche was more than just a car company. It was a symbol, a statement, proof that European engineering dominance wasn't just historical legacy but living, breathing, present tense reality. When you saw that Stuttgart crest, you knew you were looking at the pinnacle of what human ingenuity could achieve with internal combustion, with mechanical precision, with the kind of attention to detail that borders on obsessive. But we're not in that world anymore. In an EV world controlled by China's batteries, materials, and technology, where the supply chain runs through Shenzhen, not Stuttgart, the question is no longer who builds the best sports cars. The question is no longer even who has the best engineering pedigree or the most storied racing history. The question is simpler and more brutal. Who controls the future? And right now, as Porsche's profits collapse and German factories go dark, the answer to that question is becoming uncomfortably clear. The next chapter of automotive history might still feature the Porsche name and that iconic crest, but the leverage, the power, and the control over destiny itself, that might be written in Mandarin.